Hello, welcome back, Stewart and Stewart Attorneys. My name's Darren Stewart. With us today we have Nick Wagner.
Hello, hello.
Nick Wagner runs our litigation department and is very good at what he does. He's joined us today. Appreciate you taking a few minutes.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I got a call the other day, Nick, from a nice lady that her child was injured at a playground.
Right.
And it's not your typical slip and fall or car crash case. It's a little different. You don't see as often, but it happens. Mm-hmm. And she had a lot of questions about that. So, one of her big questions was, what can I do?
Right.
Who's responsible here? Because this is what happened, and it shouldn't have happened. The playground equipment broke, and my child got hurt, and all I'm getting from everybody is there's nothing we can do about it.
Right. Well, my initial response to that is yes, there is. Just kind of taking a step back with, I've got children of my own. I know you do too. It's always a worry for a parent sending their kids to school worrying about whether or not, they're going to get hurt on the playground or in gym class or whatever. We all have that concern. It's an ongoing thing. We worry about our kids. And with childhood and youth comes bumps and bruises and scrapes. It's not always something where we have like negligent supervision, for example, or we have unsafe playground equipment. These types of things that are under the control of the school or the park.
But what about negligent supervision? I was thinking she had called more about the playground equipment had broken.
Right.
But there are negligent supervision situations where you've entrusted your child to someone and something happened.
Well, no, you're right. I mean, we under Indiana law, parents have the right to expect that their children will be kept reasonably safe while at school. That's what the law says. So and that comes into play in a lot of different scenarios. One, as you were talking about, and as I mentioned, was recess. That you've got a teacher out there supervising kids. You got a teacher out there blowing the whistle, telling them to come in when it's done. Oftentimes what we see is we've got one teacher, but we've got 100 students. Or we've got a teacher who's on her phone or something like that and not really paying attention to what the kids are doing and not keeping them reasonably safe. And so, as parents, as I said, we have the right to expect that our children will be kept reasonably safe. And if they're not, then you have a valid claim against the school. And there's lots of different avenues that you can take and explore when it comes to holding them accountable for that. But generally speaking, when it comes to supervision at recess or at gym class or it comes to playground equipment, all that has to be kept reasonably safe. Mm-hmm. We have that right to expect that our children are going to be reasonably safe because we should.
And it sounds like a lot of leg work or footwork on a case like that. And what I mean by that is you get a phone call from a client whose child, they broke their arm on the playground, and you start to hear the facts about it and the lack of supervision, and which we feel led to the incident that caused the child to break his arm.
Yeah.
And how do you get all that information? Who you talk to? It could be a big process.
Yeah, and it's not just, I don't want to sort of paint this picture that the only time you'll have a case is if a teacher's not doing a good job of watching kids at recess. It could be a matter of bullying, which is very pervasive, unfortunately, in our world today, and it can take a big toll on kids, and it can lead to situations like fights and harassment. And so it's extremely important that if, just kind of taking a step back from the litigation discussion, if you have any reason to believe that your child is being bullied or harassed at school, you need to get to the bottom of it. And if you don't think your kid is acting right or your child is being as responsive as they should be about those concerns, then it's probably time to go to the teachers and the staff and see what's going on. And it may be a case, it may be an isolated case, an isolated event, but it may be a pattern. It may be something that the school has ignored or chose not to deal with because they don't want to get involved. That's a problem. That's a problem, and that creates a claim in and of itself. So
it's interesting you bring up the bully case. That is a case, that type of case is something that Nick has over the years become our resident expert on. Whenever a bully case comes across my desk being signed up, always ends up on Nick's desk, and he handles those because they're difficult cases. They're challenging cases because of the human nature aspect of it. Everybody the child who's doing the bullying doesn't want to admit it.
Right.
And the parents of the child who's doing the bullying doesn't want to admit it. Whether they realize it or not, they just don't want to admit that their child would be like that. And then, of course, you've got whatever entity, like school or teachers that are involved, that arguably don't want to admit that that was happening on their watch. And it's a very challenging situation to bring it. And then the person who's really having to deal with that is the other kid who got bullied.
Yeah.
And so Nick has really developed a skill set to pursue these cases and hold those people accountable, and really affected some change in some of these programs that you've pursued, which is really, it's one thing to be compensated, and that's good, they need the compensation, but when you look long term and big picture, affecting some change at some of these places and how they handle those situations is a great thing.
Yeah, that's a big deal too. Yeah.
So if you have anything along those lines you'd like to talk to us about, please give us a call. Children get hurt on playgrounds. It happens any time of the year, really. It's from summer throughout the school year, and we'd be happy to talk with you, and you'll get a chance to meet Nick in person and talk about your case.